I was born in Iran of Zoroastrian descent and raised in the United States. I studied poverty alleviation. I also studied cultural anthropology. I wanted to understand how development could be more aligned with people's cultures and be less disruptive. I researched how to best support the poorest of poor, most often rural women and children, in moving out of poverty. But I soon recognized, what was the use of women earning income if they had little say over their lives or over how that income would be used? So the question I began to live with was, what kind of leadership was necessary to orchestrate that kind of cultural change? This is what propelled me toward leadership studies. I was very fortunate to have Professor Amartya Sen as my senior advisor on my PhD thesis. Most of my research up until then had been overseas in Asia and Africa. I decided to shift focus and work on issues closer to home. So I did research in the US and Canada among what's called American Indian or Aboriginal communities. I wondered, how was it possible that in two of the wealthiest nations on earth, indigenous peoples and tribal communities were suffering from such high rates of substance abuse, violence, and poverty? My thesis made the case that if we want peace and prosperity, we have to address underlying collective trauma. I described how people and whole communities were freeing themselves from the effects of trauma. This required not just individual healing, but also cultural change and leadership. Hi, I'm Sousan Abadian. I have a PhD in political economy and government from Harvard University, as well as an MPA from Harvard's Kennedy School focused on international development. I also have an MA in the anthropology of social change and behavior. I work as an independent consultant and speaker on individual and cultural trauma and change and on leadership development, particularly for underserved population. I've been a fellow at several institutions, including MIT's Dalai Lama Center for Ethics and Transformative Values, and most recently at the US State Department's Bureau of Human Rights, Democracy, and Labor. The times demand conscious leadership by the many, not the unconscious leadership of a few. What I'm passionate about is supporting people to become sovereign, to unleash their creativity, and exercise leadership from wherever they stand.